effect is estimated to be $500 million in a rural area of the country that already has suffered so much in the last couple of years.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
A paper mill in Canton, North Carolina is closing after 120 years. After 120 years, and it's closing really unexpectedly. Really some shenanigans, it seems like, is going on. And this is the hometown of Callie Pruett. She is one of the co-hosts of the Appodlachia podcast, the Appodlachia podcast. Really great stuff. And so she has been talking about this situation on social media. I think that she's actually in Canton now, going to be reporting on it. And so, Callie, thanks for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This is such an issue close to my heart, near and dear. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak on my hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. And and like I said, we really do appreciate you taking the time. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we want to help folks understand. And so I guess first, can you tell us what is the company saying about the closure? What is the closure going to? Let's start here. What is the closure going to mean for the community?
Yeah. So the Canton paper mill is operated by Pactive Evergreen, and it has been since 2007. It's gone by a couple of different names. They've been mergers and sellouts and things, but it's been kind of in the same hands of this company since 2007. And the mill has been the centerpiece of the town, what keeps it alive for nearly 120 years. And it's the employer of over 1,000 union workers in the area. What this means to the community, though, when we look at just the raw numbers, according to the Haywood County Economic Development Director, his name is David Francis, they've looked at what this means for the community in the region, Western North Carolina region, and the company is saying that, the payroll is only $140 million a year. It's not going to be that big of an economic impact. We know that's not true. The ripple effect is estimated to be closer to $500 million in a rural area of the country that already has suffered so much in the last couple of years. So not only is that the monetary damage that we're going to see, but the community itself is reeling. I mean, a fifth of the town of Canton is employed at the mill, and that doesn't include their families, their spouses who work at the elementary schools or the bank or the hospital. So the community is certainly devastated at this moment. I think that it's a time of crisis, but they're also really trying to come together. The mayor, Zeb Smathers, is a good friend of mine, but also he is, just for a little background on where this is positioned in the world. So he is a Democratic mayor of this small town in a deep red pocket of Western North Carolina. So a lot of people will say, Asheville's kind of the hub of liberalism in Western North Carolina. Well, this is about 30 minutes west of Asheville, and the last two representatives before the representative now were Mark Meadows, who we all know has a lot of issues, and then after that it was Madison Cawthorn, who was just ousted. And now we have Chuck Edwards, who is really kind of an unknown. And in the first 2 days of this crisis was nowhere to be found, was not answering the calls from local papers or anything like that. And only after incredible public pressure did he come out and ask the SEC to investigate some of the things that have been happening that we can get into. But so if you're just generally asking the impact on the community, it is enormous.
On Twitter, Max mentioned that, I'm reporting for In These Times in the Real News about a situation that's kind of similar in that this is a paper town, been a paper town since the 1880s in Jay, Maine. But for them, it has been a lot less sudden, right? There were at one point 2 paper mills in this town that employing, I think, as many as 3,000 people. They're directly employing. And then, like you mentioned, you've got the families of these people that are just supported by their income. And then you've got the families of these people that, work at the schools, work at, the grocery stores, the local restaurants and things like this. But it has, through the years, like in 2009, one of the mills shut down. There's been several rounds of layoffs. And so the final conclusion is coming now. The last roll of paper came out of the mill on Wednesday at like 1 a.m. or something. But only 200 people are going to lose their jobs right now. And so it's really been more of a death by 1,000 cuts for this community. And whereas Canton, North Carolina, is that there's just no time to adjust to a reality of thousands of people, 1,000 people losing their jobs, $500 million of economic impact being just taken in the blink of an eye from a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So, I mean, this is really, it's kind of unprecedented how quickly this has been. I've talked to other people who have experienced mill closures in the area, because there have been declines in mill operations around Western North Carolina for a while. And a lot of those people had multiple years to prepare for a closure. This mill, it was announced last Monday to about a group of about 40 workers. And so many of these people learned through social media or through the news that they've lost their jobs. So they didn't even give a full briefing to all the workers.
Wow.
And then they said, and it's going to be closed by mid-May or June. 3 months. I mean, that is truly unfathomable that they would give such short notice. And it is really, really unprecedented.
Yeah. It's just, it's unfathomable. I mean, and so what is the company saying is the reason for this, that it's coming so suddenly? How are they justifying this?
The company is saying that it is just the way that things go, that this is how the market is adjusting. This is how their company is adjusting to the demands of the market. But that doesn't track for me. It's very, to me, that's very fishy. It doesn't, this mill was profitable. This company is not suffering. They are making millions, and in profits, they're doing very well. And this company, or this mill in particular, they make things like Starbucks cups and McDonald's cups, and things.
Well, now, Callie, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of those right now. I think, we'd be fair to the company, right? I mean, Starbucks, their business is not booming right now.
Right. I mean, this is something that every person in America has had their hands on, something that has come out of North Carolina, Canton, North Carolina. And so when you talk about the economic side of this, it just doesn't track for me. What tracks for me is that this is the nuclear option in union busting. And by that, I mean, it came out in February that the company was going to idle one of the 4 major paper making machines in the mill. This comes after the union has been without a contract since May of 2022. They voted down 2 contracts last year, and they were still in negotiations. To my understanding, there were no threats of strikes yet. That was not even in the cards. From what I have read from the union leaders, they really thought that they were going to reach a resolution. However, in February, doing this idling of this machine, it was kind of seen as retaliation. But it was in a more vague fashion, and it wasn't widely reported that this had to do with the union. Now, when we look at this in full context, we see, then this is kind of where the bad corporate behavior comes in for me. So it came out 2 days after the announcement of the closure that 4 members of the company executive leadership had offloaded more than 58,000 shares of company stock on March 2nd, which was 5 days before the announcement and before the price of shares did go down due to the news. So these 4 leaders, I looked them up. This is the CEO of the company, the CFO of the company, the COO of the company, and the person who delivered the news to the workers who offloaded these shares. And I looked at, you can look at the trading and see whether they were scheduled in advance, because, if they were scheduled in advance, then it doesn't give the same kind of whiff of insider trading than if they were just sold on the spot. They were not scheduled in advance. Rather, they were not planned. These people just were like, they probably heard this news, said, I got to get rid of some stock. And so this implies that these company executives used insider trading tactics to benefit on the decimation of a town. So this to me looks like far more like union busting, because they didn't want to deal with the union contracts anymore, and so they went nuclear.
And what were do you have a good sense yet of what the contention was in the negotiations? Obviously there was some amount of back and forth with these people voting down the contracts. Do you have an understanding of what the workers were unhappy with?
So it seems that from what I've read, it seems that the workers were kind of just unhappy with the pay. And they had voted down 2 of the contracts that did not have a bump enough in pay. I mean, we all know that wages have been stagnant and really unmoving, and so this has been affecting the mill as well. And so I think that workers were frustrated that they're working these long hours. They are benefiting this company. The company is turning major profits, and they're not seeing it at their kitchen table when we have inflation and post-pandemic world of last year and this year. So it's my understanding that it had a direct correlation to being able to get the raises that they deserved.
Yeah. Is the plant moving to another location? Is the production moving to another location, or are they just ending the production of these materials? That
is what it seems. There has been no reporting, no news on moving this. And it's my understanding that this mill is also, it's not an obsolete mill. I mean, there have been questions about whether or not, because this is such an old operation, whether or not these paper making machines that they have are just obsolete. From what I understand, they're not, and they're still very profitable and useful machines, which is, yet again, it doesn't make the sense that people would say that the company would say that it's like an economic reason, but they are not moving their operations elsewhere, to my understanding, which means that these folks are either going to have to face moving from their communities that many of them have been there for generations. Yeah. I mean, Canton is a very tight-knit community, one that has suffered tremendously in the last couple of years. If you recall, in late 2021, there was a devastating flood that killed several members of the town, flooded out the entire downtown area, flooded the mill. And there have been such incredible strides toward recovery when it comes to rebuilding Canton and we called it the Canton comeback. And so they've suffered so much in the last couple of years, and we were seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And so this loss is so devastating to the community. I mean, you have 4th generation mill workers who are now going to have to face leaving their communities that they've been in for generations, or, finding some other way to earn their living. And many of them have, a lot of mill workers didn't go get a secondary education because they knew that the mill was going to be what was going to provide. And so they have a very specific skill sets that are, for production and for mill work. And it's really, really devastating.
What's been the representatives' response in the community? You know, the city council, the mayor. You know, maybe any of the federal delegation. Has there been any response from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mayor of Canton, North Carolina, I think has done a phenomenal job in trying to get the word out about this and trying to mobilize the people in the community to fight for themselves and to fight for the community. So Zeb is pulling no punches. He has called the corporate executives cowardly and called their actions sickening. He is very public about how really cruel that this closure has been to the community, and very open about what he's experiencing as the mayor, you know, having grown men and women in his office crying their eyes out because they don't know what to do, having little kids come up to him on the street and say, I really don't want to leave my school. I have friends here. I mean, this is not just about It's not just about the workers. It is about their families as well. And that's something that I think that Zeb has really gotten out there, is that this is an entire community that we have to stand up for. That this isn't this, of course, that we have to stand up for the union workers, that we have to stand up for the people losing their jobs, but this goes so much deeper into our community. So he's done a fantastic job. As far as the federal delegation, well, I'll actually take a step back to the state delegation. So I spoke specifically on Monday night with Anderson Clayton, who is the newly elected chair of the Democratic Party in North Carolina, and alerted her to this news as quickly as I had heard it, within the hour that it dropped. And so I know that the party, I had let them know, I said, this can't be something that the party does not step in on. This is an opportunity to stand up for unionization in North Carolina, because we know North Carolina is one of the least unionized states in the whole entire country, and losing these kind of jobs in the thousands is a phenomenally bad loss for unions in North Carolina. So I know that the party is aware and acting on it. And I had asked that they make a statement. And the next day, Governor Cooper put out a statement saying that he was looking into what was going on in Canton. So we know that the state party and that the governor have eyes on what's going on. As far as Representative Chuck Edwards, the only thing that he has put out, he's done no interviews, really. He has not been a forward-facing voice on this, which is very disappointing, but not shocking based on the last two representatives that we've had. But he has officially asked the SEC to investigate the insider trading allegations. So, I mean, that is, in my opinion, the absolute bare-ass minimum that he could do.
Right.
But I do feel that our local leaders, especially Zeb, are not going to let this go.
Yeah. Are there any? When does the mill actually? Has it already closed, or when does it close?
No, they have said that they're aiming for mid-May or early June. So we don't even have a clear timeline on when it's going to close.
And I guess with the news being so new, there are probably not any talks of buyers of the mill, of other companies being potentially interested in buying the mill, are there?
Not other companies, but you know, one thing that I think is very interesting is that there have been a lot of rumblings of the workers banding together to make it a co-op. This mill has been a co-op in the past. Workers bought the mill in 1996, I believe, and that was they held it until 2007 when they sold it to the Pactive Evergreen company. So to me, that's the most exciting option when I look at what is ahead of us. And I know that that has been kind of the primary rumbling that I have heard. And I think that there's an appetite for that in the community, because I mean, let's just look at the history of corporate exploitation in Appalachia, from the coal mines to the timber industry. It has been ongoing and relentless for over 100 years. And the idea of a community taking hold of their own destiny is really appealing to them right now. And it's something, being able to count on your neighbors instead of count on corporate overlords is something that I think people are very interested in. So to me, that is the most exciting option that I've heard on the table.
Well, great. Yeah, that sounds exciting to me for sure.
Absolutely. And I got to say that I think that is a viable solution. I think maybe the city could possibly help out. I mean, potentially, or the state in some way. I mean, there is eminent domain laws. Maybe there could be some assistance in financing such as, a plan like that. Maybe even the unions, even at the national level. To me, this is something that everybody involved has to really, plant their flag and say, we can do better than this. And we can't just be held hostage. We can't have entire communities held hostage by these corporations who can just, take it away like that in an instant. So I am, despite how terrible the story is, I'm very, very glad you said that here at the end to give us some idea that workers are actually having these conversations. And I can just say from my own point of view, but probably for a lot of others listening, that there are a lot of us workers who fully cheer on that effort, who support that effort, who send our solidarity, and would love to see that kind of initiative. And I think, with the right coalition, maybe it's possible. And that could be a game changer for the next one somewhere else in somebody else's community. So I really, really, really hope that that gains some momentum. And if there's anything that we can do in Alabama to kind of spread the word or just cheer y'all on, we're all about that.
Yeah, I will keep y'all updated as much as I can on this story. This is so close to my heart, and I want to keep folks updated, and this is something that I would like to see in my community too. This is the kind of people power that I want to tell my kids about, and say that the people you come from are resilient and are strong and have power over their own destinies, and that's something that I think can be an inspiration to other people, and we will be fighting for that for the foreseeable future.
Callie Pruett, Canton, North Carolina native, host of the Appodlachia podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Hey, before you go, tell us, where can folks get plugged in and follow your work?
Yeah, so you can follow us at Appodlachia on all platforms, and you can follow me on Twitter. I've been posting a lot of updates about Canton, and it's just Callie Pruett, CALLIE PRUETT.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Yeah, definitely check that out. Follow her. Follow Appodlachia on Twitter. All that good stuff. And we might be having I spoke to her and yesterday, and we might be running an article from her on this on what's going on. So definitely,
yeah, that would be fantastic. There's some good discussion going on in the chat about kind of the practical aspect of the workers taking over or purchasing the plant, because of course you got to have customers, right? And as Strawn points out, there's very likely to be a corporate boycott, so to speak, and it may be difficult to maintain any sort of sustainable business model. I don't know. I think those are all valid concerns for sure.
Yeah, I think that, well, I mean, she said that it was a co-op from 96 to 2007, so I wonder what it was.
That could be an advantage, as there are folks around, first of all, who've been there, done that, but also they clearly had some form of a business model during that time. Right. So, perhaps there's a way, and if there's a way, a coalition of the workers and their unions with some allies in government could could do something.
Yeah, and, you know, she said that one of the things that they produce is like Starbucks cups, and well, if Starbucks workers get enough power in the company, then they can start trying to shift the company, you know, ensuring that the company stays with this supplier, right, to support these workers, you know.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is they have to have some kind of punishment, right? There has to be punishment of corporations who behave this way, and especially if there was insider trading there. So, you know, that's something also that I think folks can be pushing for. The state spends a lot of money on economic development. The state gives up a lot of money on tax rebates and tax incentives and subsidies and things of that nature. And the more we as working people can shape that to reward unionization and to reward the folks who are doing the right thing and punish those who are not, I think we're going to be a lot better off. And yeah, as you point out, it's all about power, and more power we can build as a movement. So
yeah. Mel Sutton in the Facebook chat says, check out Paper Town by Balsam Range on YouTube. And I forgot to mention this while Callie was here, but that was actually, that's actually her dad that wrote and sung that.
Oh, awesome.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project. And you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.